T in the case. In that order.
Where do you have the ISS impact defense?
I have it on debris.
On debris, okay, I'll move it. I put it on ISS, right? Just at the very end of debris.
Yeah. I'll tell you when I'm going there.
I can just move it, I just want to make sure. Okay, cool.
Let me move this back.
Is that TOC on the?
Yeah, and it should say Whitney on at the end of it. Are you all good? First is Sam Kelly, we lost in Robinson, explosions, multiple nature, this definition, 5 and a half, baseball team must acknowledge multiple versions, unit, explosion, explosions, hopefully opposite, robots, comics, but human situ, humans, and normally, no longer particularly, our bombs do not space ball, includes surveillance, satellites, DoD, and enemy space ball, will require unique surveillance, and defense offense mapping, and technology explosion includes definition for scientific security and economic interest, national academy, and explosion, advanced scientific security and economic globally, and technology infrastructure further, security interest, now we meet us, increase space security, the interpretation is bad, no DoD has no Fed, key warrants, detail, the DoD prevent the militarization, space lack of Fed, key warrants, space everywhere, and ahead, good, bad way, no impact limits, all functional limits, institutional structure, cases, limits are bad, will prevent holistic education, more than 90 students give more focused to become an educated field, develop sparks, compartmentalized learning, narrows our perspective, ways and abilities, only the aspirant to be predictable, and the mandates of the resolution not meet their arbitrary counter-interpretation. Now, I'll go on to hedge these points. Hedge does not collapse nation building or indicating evidence indicate that the lack of security guarantees in countries like East Asia and the Middle East means that confidence of things like the Arab Spring is impossible now. He says hedge solves nothing. Yes, even if Iran and North Korea are still nuclearizing, security guarantees prevent that from proliferating. That's the cake and evidence now. He says re-entrenchment now, however, is what is the causes nuclear lash out in the long term, in the short term. That's our goal. So now that you can see the claim that China's weaponized and successful communities is required after the for the peace points. It causes conflicts in the interim because of our cake and evidence. He said collapse of deterrence in East Asia or other regional hotspots would cause attacks. And he says no ban. He says no one. He says backlash against military power where people will bandwagon. This is there and sex and immunity charge must be born with instability, war will people will mean against other states. Every benefits of not getting strategy, including Walsh, Ellis, and Junior, will not be able to achieve their resistance to oaks, man, one, Washington, threats to speak for designing other tools, but committed to such direction, involved discretion, personal line, Muslim institution, we the power that one person never before in the history of any country had so many allies, bandwagon, in fact, gives us extensive influence, market, influence. Additionally, he says hedge causes terrorism, however, it is able to solve terrorism. This is Corsman in 2002 to call for Austrian purchase with everything the United States remember if the United States being reduction in military technology, there will be a second claim to base on any kind of use process, and thus the United States will have lost its potential to turn into defense capability by drawing costs of the Germany, increase the likelihood of terrorist strike groups and most within cheaper terrorism, freedom of quality, history, multiple does not save great power, whereas black members say that the worst people of the United States relations, the pack instructs the focal point for research pursuits or the possibility of effective and coordinated action of them against would be our views. Now he says adventuresome, however, Germany's been secondary, and two, I can see the sense of liberal norms for costing American objective United States of black but it's a much too great extent from some of the European East Asia, I do not think it's Germany's particularly, but I know only to tell a last one countries also promote as a hedge also promotes human for to be prosperity better than any alternative yet tried. Now he says East Asian war, how we're able to prevent it, propose it, and policy 90 centuries for the super the West, super percent good and competition security, 96% accurate, but aspiring to come out to see what three states broadly depending on the most powerful of clusters, maybe people are sure you go out to test to be more work, and might be used. And additionally, here's more evidence. Leave it present. Justify history, offering history, enormously different from the show. Our regional organization, compliments, potential, there's something yourself, they need to do best place the union, stabilize the world, the country organization, capable of playing, offer public source potential success to reduce competition, return to give good, all these more dangerous competition, power loss, and responsible for unstable security, environmental spread, nuclear weapons, even China acquiesces in America's will not go to debris. The point is that the Russian defense doesn't account our specific scenario. The point is that the equivalent evidence is not responsive to the fact that mutually assured destruction is decreasing the status quo. That's why did the U.S. News and World Report happen because of increase in missile defense. He says safeguards for Russian defense players would shut down our evidence as Russian experts, and they say that a lack of status quo vis-a-vis the arsenals of the United States and Russia. It increases the pressure now. The ISS cooperation scenario. NASA does not have to cooperate. The ISS is about to be shut down. The ISS, the lack of commercial launch infrastructure causes extinction. Collins and evidence now goes to the cooperation flow. None of their arguments are responsive. The first three arguments are stalled back from the fact that there's a perception of weaponization in the status quo. The status quo on the part of the United States, not other countries. Only the plan is able to solve this because it renews a commitment to bilateral exchange in the context of data sharing. That's the relevant evidence. Since we can't solve weaponization, how our treaties are able to verify the ban on weaponization. That's the bans and codes evidence now. Going to the counterplan. The point is that you can solve the case. Recommendations don't translate to political action. The main barrier is funding, and a recommendation doesn't ensure that funding will be mandated or have a funding mechanism to play that process. Counterplans are voting. You should steal that government the entirety of that without one of the actors generating offensive plan text. Predictability. There's no solvency evidence comparing plan action to counterplan action. That's better for research skills. Now, so there's no evidence comparing action to the counterplan makes impact here, but cameras are impossible. They're bad for topics contributing educational more. In any students are implementation because general policy may even the implementation of stuff should be found implementation sharp there's most cultural implementation studies we find are big and can't solve the plain only the DOD's the Asian Air Force Ball the Secretary of Professional Degrees Response to develop the development act the Secretary of Professional Development Acquisition operating completely they link to policies go seen and so the declaration surveys the difference of this world including the consequences that are profit mark by factor 2 specifically the effect of global health process related to any domestic spending above his budget proposal no leadership is the counterplus and taking seriously the politics and other you don't have medical service based science community diverse technical service communication to server every communication cannot think of several individual permutation to go just like the politics because we don't go through NASA go through the duty and permutation do the counterpoint bills to do her since like the person defining relationship to the science of NASA every given agent gets calls from the agent NASA can deny the agent's portfolio and go on to the criticism you are should be policy making its points predictability is ground resolution that's the only state support for clash and first because background and philosophical research to reject some way to preserve grounds to weigh the academic discipline if I don't think finding something necessary to disagree with industrial central with the legal field department the charter of the system is a charter of the back and also like other impulsive factors the fair laws people submission the period and that surface of the county theory of law laws with the permutation do both in utils was ethical object was connected to the garbage substitute the also to start over the money for the good reason states beneath the more persons I'll say the better now the all results in the plan are putting steals the affluent clash and effective conflict analysis realism and all merger no one will source now to return to the crisis the national just the recovery for the office people scream to know the ability to attack just impossible to 5% certainty that should change the draws from the real states you didn't and that's how this are rational things strategically how to survive and about how often is possible that's security all shouldn't you feel more daily the attacking security for difficult not a real for both points of most of the shape from martial bodies connected set of peace for granted market granted initially the all fields controlling and for based on moon stress of the IR pretty cool based on Mr. Bright that they were very quickly international relations with minister of famous research was offered pretty gender specific population that every one of the individual central international relations were to just the implications for gender what happens in the world goes to the politics decide first logical policy making you the plan to decide within agential capabilities to do such decision making skills of most affordable skills of government doing not only the claims also Russian relations these points of crop on evidence they will increase in space-based physical defense well class really the point is miscalculation only can implement Russia's nuclear sovereignty that obviously always trade issues with Obama does not push the plan as the Maloney energy costs for the United States and conflict involved in the circuit defense for all best to say states forgot that just resistance to the movement strikes to defensial as strategic capabilities also to deploy for the trade succeeded in 2015 but Obama stopped pushing into election year orders in 14 6 nothing to the rest to get out the Russian problems to the committees and PMs to do Obama we should not engage comes to talk express should be delayed until after the decision and remember the plan is a win-lose capital commercial and policy which supports competition but like effective and full capital logistics foreign policy school and success and domestic that's especially to the context of foreign policy martial and foreign policy success political capital school especially foreign partnering its interests just to maybe the eye towards political capital making this will derail JV capital reasons and attack as well as rugged forward further several security location offer Russia the makes people 60 for connected the results into the mission community pushing water down the obviously now the mission must be passed on with you the rate they're going to be likely that even the plan doesn't pass in the normal legislation or process that's a good thing because we focus on self-display rather than implication and political capital is irrelevant utterance in the utterance and identical the most important items party ideology to these factors beyond the individual and still have little impact in field sports and aviation weekend all job itself increases the best of us states the date quote on effective space policy market policy is most influential member Congress McConnell and all job reputation improvements committed policy and selling files with the policy vice John with representative in the Senate Market Senate.
We'll take care of it. Stop there.
Real quick, your arguments on politics for intrinsic and the plan shouldn't pass.
Yeah, tell us a little.
Is that the argument between foreign policy, especially during the context of foreign policy and PC irrelevant?
I'm not sure because it wasn't on my speech doc, but
Okay, that's fine. politics is that? Okay, Secretary of Defense pushes the plan. Where is this evidence in the context of the plan? Like, who pushes it?
National space policy means that Obama has said that the Secretary of Defense will literally lobby the votes for the plan's implementation. The Secretary of Defense is necessary or is responsible for acquiring SSA infrastructure, which means you don't get any perception or spending.
That's fine. What does it mean to be a benign hegemon?
We don't just randomly invade countries. We invade countries with a strategic purpose for the greater good.
And so if we don't like enforce our will on other countries, how does benign hegemon go about solving problems?
Security alliances.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Their evidence also makes a bandwagoning claim. So
Okay,
let's
so
say
the way you solve problems is through bandwagon.
no, not necessarily. The reason why hegemony being benign and at the same time still being effective, those two things are mutually reinforcing. Because of course, if we were just military militaristic,
I understand that it
hegemony
can be
would have
effective.
no
I want to know
credibility.
that what we do as a benign hegemon to solve
Our
problems.
Kagan evidence indicates that there are conflicts and hotspots, then we're able to intervene into those places.
So we do intervene still.
We
Yeah,
do
like
intervene. Our argument is that intervention is good. We
that's
don't just
fine.
intervene.
Which countries go to the ISS
We
now?
aren't like that's imperialism, not hegemony.
Which
That's-
countries go to the ISS?
Russia, ESA, JAXA, South Korean Space Agency.
Okay,
Every spacefaring nation except China.
right. Your SAC evidence, which is your impact to science diplomacy, talks about how.
I didn't extend science diplomacy, I only extended the Collins and
Then what's the
Atina.
impact to that?
Collins and Atina.
Okay, anyway, the internal link to that is
The
US.
internal link to that is the lack of the ISS existing means that countries
Right, but
cannot
it's specific
develop.
to US cooperation.
It's not specific to U.S. cooperation, that's what you don't understand. The evidence,
Okay.
the internal link says that private space ventures need to use the ISS as a testing ground for commercial launch vehicles. Nowhere does our card say the word NASA in it. NASA can leave the ISS, we still have an internal link to the Collins and Atina.
Yeah, and also microgravity and radiobiology programs allow us to
Okay,
understand.
that's fine. How does
how
security
life
produce
happens.
value of life?
I'm sorry?
How does
Our
security-
Elshine evidence indicates that it's pretty hard for me to have a stable value of life if I'm afraid of a terrorist bombing something, or
Okay.
afraid of,
And-
I can't fly if someone's
Okay.
going to fly a plane to the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
We need to solve this
Issuing
first.
traditional
Okay,
notions of
That's
security
fine,
logic
so just being
causes-
scared. Which specific types of international relations does gender fail to explain and how?
Our Caprillo evidence indicates that when you're just like, well, gender is masculine, that means, you know, the
I'm just
plan
confused,
reinforces-
which international structures can't it explain well?
I'm answering your question.
Okay.
Our Mersheimer evidence indicates that things like the fog of war and the inability to pin down
Asking about-
intentions means that
That's a real
your
thing. I'm asking about
alternative
this Caproli
Your
evidence, it says
alternative
gender
cannot explain things like realism because, yes, states are inherently aggressive. That's not a normative statement of whether or not they're being masculine or feminine. It's just the nature of the international system.
Perms on the K.
Permutation do both.
Okay.
Alright, the order's gonna be politics to 7, then case, the order of hedge, debris, go up. Actually, counterplane on top, sorry, the deck was already counterplane. Then politics. Then the hedge advantage. Then the degree advantage, then go up.
Aaron, do you mind if I just before this speech? been the case stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, counterclaim.
Countdown, what's up?
Judge ready?
1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Alright, cool. Okay.
First on the counterclaim, the counter-interpretation negative can one recommend counterclaim specific to the top of this best one test plan. The hash after defend immediate demonstrated implementation. This leads to better plan and fit trying to is whether there's resolution based resolved and action plan means 13.3 is critical negative ground force process counterclaims uniquely educational teachers making posture knowledge about how the different works process counterclaims are uniquely keep 6 no ground the applicant can argue say no later retest as can see the permutation just the test competition we're not going for which means you should just reject the argument down the team effort the policy dissents and analysis black 11 to which relations solve everything cooperation maintains the trustee to avoid accidentally making launch they read the Bosch evidence and the one the evidence Bosch makes is that U.S. Russian relations are critical to solving for this, which means that any sort of scenario for distinction flips and negative in this case because we are the only one who have internal link to U.S. Russian relations. And if I win any sort of internally, if I win the internal portion of this debate, that means that they do not. That means we have a stronger internal link than their internal link, which means you should default negative into controlling the impact cooperation. For instance, actually scratch it up and say CT and non-intrinsic cover the cheap shot. We link evidence to disadvantage remaining plans. There's political trade-offs means you share negative no logical reason. You exclude disadvantage politics disadvantage keep negative ground and tons of concealing way to access current defense education for participators. The policy makers cheap shot their to voter no risk from basic delivery tracking from top specific educations uniquely grouping context really two ECs made two contradictory interpretations of Fiat. One is that Fiat's also linked to the second is the intrinsic concern. However, now go to the internal link debate. This is probably where this debate's going to come down to. I end up going for this because they say they solve cooperation. However, not you or internal link evidence Miller Evans specifically said Jackson Bennett repeal is key to state momentum. It is the only thing that Russia cares about in the status quo. We're on the brink of Russia 12-14 debating Russia Jackson Bennett the real world relations is not becoming a fault. Here's not the United States. It's time for real favorable or both mentioned next repeal failure undermines the resets of military status on Jackson Bennett is long-standing social Russian art of the other success from the U.S. back in W2 aspiration to reset the best of 18 cooperation here to a mutual return about administration needs administration stand up with still evidence of Russia could still undermine the reset. We're the only ones with a reverse causal piece of evidence, which means that if we do not pass Jackson Bennett, that kills relations, that it internally turns the entirety of their cooperative. Shall they say agencies don't link it? However, Congress will backlash against the DOT that you without directly occurs to me also this Friday means that the layer operation may complete information calculating and average with the attention to mobilize political parties in Congress and nation court challenges the agency can expect to incur the significant cost of political capital even achieves regulatory goal thanks to links to politics at Chain 95. The president may be held accountable for overall bureaucratic performance and value structure is like dominant even if it's not able to commit different types of decisions. Now go to the debates in the Verona Jackson Bennett repeals coming out the Obama Commission's working to lobby to make your preferred even if there is some pulled out references that fundamentalists favor repeal preferred direction to link Obama will be able to keep the GOP from back action as long as he is capital war on something is repeals the temporary Obama city capital marshal forces not to Moscow times 4-5. The U.S. will rate Jackson Bennett before the summer Obama as not the administration to understand how those candidates as your country's presidential administration would lobby the virtual event very seriously and so what be is consensus on repeal to EWR online 323 President Secretary state many prominent congressional leaders all are debating on the rescinding Jackson Bennett and most complaints claim that the trade sanctions from the emergency of an independent middle class and which made politically changed up with the Baucus agrees with partly 315 is explained that this legislation passed in Baucus. Kirk said that his mind's different types of restriction to press and confidence how they see winners however winners release for bonds around 9 the local capitals have for loving investment mentioned NASA which one is encouraged rarely no men watch Obama see how many would realize that Obama's face the American public without a winner take all system that link outweighs the link on time for the silver and those several reasons capital is just to be replaced capital and be rebuilt but it's only limited to its market evidence here. Now they say McNinsey, however, McNinsey proves like Obama spending capital to hold it off or water John not to kill talking to fortune for sanctuary human rights violators not be kept. Equally Obama or here to keep off the agenda Senate actually described different types of lobbying for Obama here to not only build agenda make changes to magnitude but the chair of the ranking members committee just or request on some to be out of the list and I've already in the partisan the administration may be negotiating to water down the McNinsey bill to oppose later next sequencing trade is the focus now. That's what Obama's focusing on. Everything else will come later if anything. This resilience Butler and 12 officials are trying to keep the rights and the different trade measures their concern about retaliation do not want to the relations administration first wants to deal with trade accidents will block it. That's Moscow Times in the 329 trying to look at the T-bill trade legislation could run and government Democrats Walker said he was planning to put out and made the T-bill trade legislation also if we went internally to political capital that means Obama will use his political capital to get McNinsey off next day safety outs also however even if when the circuit there's still backlash from trade Obama's capital triggers link fiat is the least necessary means Obama changes mind that's what's like he also crossed by politics is such a now space Operation Unpopular and Hamburg evidence indicates that they're spending the plane causes political fights. Here's more evidence from 2011 men's difficulties. Now, having been asked about the Obama's space health team traveling state by the absence of takeover national space policy laws of and leadership of NASA headquarters. Next money means the plan will be unpopular since in 2011. The NASA had a important refocus over replacing and starting from scratch probably waste money, probably and that's the problem is that Congress doesn't give space exploration a high priority. Kyle is not key to the agenda. You should default to evidence because it's in the context of the entire Congress, not good ahead. We're not going for a Germany bat, however, extend the Zikari evidence indicates that there are alternative causalities that the affirmative cannot solve. China, India, Brazil, and Turkey are all counterbalancing against the United States. Sure, they might be able to solve for China, however, India, Brazil, and Turkey are three conceded arguments, which means that they cannot solve for any of these arguments. That's Zikari evidence for our evidence. It's from 2 months ago. Their evidence is 2. Only our evidence predicts status quo trends next declines. The best option, Germany does not solve any of their impacts. 1 is Germany cannot solve things like nation building. 2 is prevents violent intervention wars like Iraq and Afghanistan, junior resource international capitalists. 3 is we haven't been able to solve any problems for the last few decades around Israel, Palestine, Group. And foreign international police in the U.S. and field means we can't influence countries to solve problems and they won't comply with terms that are meerschaum evidence in the one see now. Here's more evidence. 1 is the U.S. can't solve the world's problems, which are 2002 limits use the rules of policemen, multiple systems, starting to become more evident quality. By current march for Afghanistan, provide $40 billion to 10-year double-digit unemployment, China pulling home. For the United States struggling to impose its will leadership across the globe. And the rise of China, India, and Brazil taking together with a formidable presence. Japan, the European Union, just that power is becoming more diffuse. Next, U.S. and Germany not key to global stability. There are other alternative countries capable of doing the same thing as Preble. And the U.S. military is already unaffordable yet. It needs to actually be largely sustained vectors of leadership, especially in the face of rising trade. Crossing not be pleased by single dominant power. The international companies more complex and resilient Islamic extremes are shared but hardly comparable to by global standing Soviet Union army thousands. Nuclear weapons marquee evidence here. Not going to degree advantage. First of all, there's no risk of national launch. Makes it the only impact on the probability is low. That's equivalent to 9 evidence. Someone A is mutually assured destruction. Checks any risk of escalation. Someone B is neither side wants a new check, which means even if degree takes out a satellite, that's not a reason that they will press the button. Someone C have correctly proven. We had to get your check in the Cold War and there was no impact now. Safeguard check any risk of the action. She just says this isn't true. However, it does not matter if degree takes out these satellites because you have to win the argument that Russia would then strike. However, the telecom evidence is that PALs and GD targeting check any risk of these impacts. Now, there's no accidents, escalation from the no fact. There have certainly been many accidents involving nuclear weapons. Probability of any accident triggering a nuclear threat is extremely low. The mechanism to set off active closure are highly complex. They have such a certainly without exponents, which include years of which knowledge sketcher and complex activity oriented across the developed by a number of larger to right side and alerts or more range or more intense. Now go to the co-op advantage. There is no impact uniqueness for this advantage. International space cooperation is high, and these status quo votes conceded out of the 2 we see. That's a Sutherland 326 evidence. Some peace cooperation is high South Korea, and the approved U.S. is not key. China and India are working together to seek greater defense and space cooperation. Here's more evidence of Usher. And 326 Prime Minister are pronouncing a new Japan memorandum of space cooperation. Canada is currently working toward future cooperation with China and has been for months now in negotiations with Russian cooperation with other space nations such as Japan. Will help enhance those capabilities and will likely result in increased trade between countries. New agreement will enhance cooperation between Canada and Japan. The main field of collaboration include the Earth observation, space exploration, science and research. Now there's cooperation now because we have SSA now, which means that the firm's not, there's no reason you should vote out. That's a certain 2012 speaking with allies about bringing together the combined SSA for creating unified committee that propose different types of unified combining capabilities to the allies involved to perform SSA activities. The USA is cooperating now. The MSNBC in 2012, the United States is examining opportunity to increase different types of international cooperation. Mark the evidence here now. Extend the cooperation fails and it cannot solve compensation. The argument is that economic, diplomatic, and security tends to prevent any meaningful impact of cooperation. China is not interested, even if they try to win its bill of arguments. Sorry, go back to the top of politics. Is that the turns the entirety of Germany. That's on 2007. If you're U.S. relations for the rule of not voting people wealth of the United States and solving to add the military defense of the SOC official bringing campaign foreign policy percent directed against what there are quite a few countries in Russia to work with China to balance the U.S.
Okay. Your evidence indicates that trade is at the top of the agenda, i.e. Obama is going to pass trade things only. The plan isn't a trade thing, it is a space thing. Why do we treat it internal?
The argument is that Jackson Bannock is inevitably going to pass. The plan spends money, which...
That's not the claim I'm making a PC claim. Obama's focusing on trade. He made a sequencing claim that trade comes first. Why would Obama push the plan?
Your plan is the top of the
Why would Obama push the plan?
The plan
Have you read a piece of evidence that Obama will push the plan?
That was a normal means interpretation of fiat.
So, no, because normal means interpretation on fiat was the plan passes through the legislative process. I can agree with that, but also still ask you...
It's at the top of the docket. If you want to make a new 1AR argument that you...
I made a 2AC argument.
No, your 2AC arguments were intrinsicness. Fiat solves the link.
Hold on. Does Obama push the plan? If it's true that trade is coming first,
Obama pushes the
do you
plan.
need a piece of evidence that says this?
First of all, agencies linked. Second of all,
let's talk about,
it's at the top of the docket. Third of all, let's
talk about Russia.
Because you kill politics, that is impacted. And fiat is the least necessary.
Let's talk about Russian relations and why it causes extinction. Now, walk me through the scenario in which there's a decrease in relations with Russia due to the lack of trade, and that causing a nuclear war.
Okay, so the head of Russia has said that they're really mad at the United States because the linchpin of our relationship post the Cold War has been completely decimated by the Jackson-Vanik Amendment because
Why?
they consider it as the United States their biggest trading partner, still not liking them. B, it does not allow their businesses to ascend to the WTO, which means that
that's
they
the
would
reason
be
why
more
Jackson
relations.
means
Yes,
relations.
that kills relations. Now
Why does that cause
relations,
extinction?
if we have unstable relations, then any sort of accident would result in extinction.
Your Quinlan evidence indicates that mutually assured destruction would check that accident.
What?
Your Quinlan evidence indicates no accidental launch. What's the internal interior impact?
We have
The
several
Quinlan evidence, you
US
have the 1NC debris advantage,
There's
is
a
totally just like no launch on
There's a war
demand.
impact in the 1AC.
I understand there's a war impact in the 1AC, but in order for you to win this decide, you also have to win a war impact. What is the internal link to
That's not
Russia?
good.
launching
Even
a
without
war?
accidents, the US and Russia can go to actual war, which is what the
How?
1NC card
The one in
says.
ours probably.
What's the scenario other than accidental launch in which a rational policymaker under mutually assured destruction, a claim you've also conceded, would go to war over trade? It would risk the extinction of the human species.
I'll concede that accidents lead to some,
Mutually assured destruction, you also said that checks the impact.
Right,
How do
no,
you overcome
my
that?
argument is that only US-Russia relations.
Really?
check
The decreased trade relations, we have the two largest nuclear arsenals in the world, and Russia's like, let's go.
What do you mean?
Like, what's the internal interior impact?
It's an intention.
Relations.
Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about your winners win evidence, your Ryan evidence. Is it in the context of domestic policies or foreign policies?
The winners win.
Yes.
The Ryan evidence is in the context of Obama's political capital, both like at
In
a domestic
what, on
level as
healthcare
well.
or in him stopping
No,
the
it's
Libyan
not on
conflict?
healthcare. It talks about how it's in the general sense.
We'll take a second.